Imagine a world where the fierce majesty of a lion and the stealthy power of a tiger are taken to an entirely new level. A world where these apex predators are outfitted in medieval iron armor, transforming them into living, breathing gladiators of the wild. In this wild hypothetical scenario, we explore what would happen if a lion and a tiger were given full suits of iron plate, complete with chainmail and riveted breastplates reminiscent of the armored knights of the Middle Ages. The question at hand is not simply which animal is naturally stronger or more ferocious, but rather how these two magnificent cats would fare when their innate abilities are modified by the weight, restrictions, and protective qualities of medieval armor. We delve into various aspects of this confrontation, the flexibility and agility of each beast while encumbered by iron, the effectiveness of their natural weapons, such as bite force and claw strength, in piercing or damaging metal, and the overall combat skills they might display in an ancient, gladiatorial context. The first element to consider is the impact of the armor on each animal's mobility. Lions, with their robust, muscular build and comparatively short, powerful limbs, are known for their ability to execute coordinated group maneuvers and to maintain a steady, dominant presence on the savanna. Their natural movements are calculated and deliberate, relying on bursts of speed during ambushes and well-timed charges during territorial disputes. When armored, a lion's heavy plate would add considerable weight, but its build might still allow it to perform short, explosive movements if the armor is designed with articulated joints and proper flexibility. The lion's mane, in this scenario, might be partially or entirely protected by a metal collar or integrated helmet, preserving its iconic silhouette while also acting as additional armor for the neck, a vulnerable area in any battle. Its thick muscles would likely help it adjust to the extra load, but one must consider that the added weight could slightly reduce its acceleration and agility, particularly over long distances. Nevertheless, the lion's natural predisposition toward teamwork and its history of engaging in fierce group battles might allow it to rely on coordinated tactics even when encumbered by heavy armor. The tiger, known for its solitary and stealthy hunting style, might experience a very different set of challenges when wearing medieval iron. Tigers have long, powerful limbs and a more streamlined body designed for rapid, explosive sprints and ambushes in densely vegetated environments. In a situation where a tiger is forced to don iron plate, its agility could be more adversely affected than that of the lion. Tigers rely on stealth and the ability to move silently through shadows. Heavy, clanking armor might compromise this silent approach. However, if the armor is specifically tailored for maximum mobility with articulated joints and lighter weight alloys that still provide robust protection, the tiger could maintain some of its natural grace. Yet, the tiger's focus on speed and stealth means that even minor restrictions might have a pronounced impact on its ability to pounce quickly or to change direction at the last moment. In this context, the tiger might be at a disadvantage compared to the lion, whose combat strategy is more about brute force and coordinated group attacks rather than sudden, lightning-fast ambushes. Another critical aspect is the effectiveness of natural weapons, specifically the bite and the claws, against armored opponents. Both lions and tigers have formidable bite forces and sharp, retractable claws that are evolutionary tools honed over millennia for subduing prey. In a scenario where their opponents also wear armor, the question arises: can the raw power of a tiger's bite or the slashing capability of its claws pierce iron? Medieval armor was designed to deflect and absorb the blows of swords and arrows, not necessarily the natural weapons of a living creature. The tiger's and lion's bite, though capable of inflicting serious damage on unprotected flesh, might be less effective against a thick plate of iron or a chainmail hauberk. However, if the armor were designed with potential vulnerabilities, such as joints or seams that require flexibility, the big cats might exploit these weak points. A well-timed bite or claw slash aimed at an unarmored gap could potentially compromise the structural integrity of the opponent's defenses. In this way, the natural weapons of these predators could still play a decisive role in combat, provided that the armor is not entirely impenetrable and that the animals have retained some degree of precision and control despite the cumbersome equipment. Beyond physical strength and weaponry, The skill set each animal brings to the battlefield in this medieval context is critical. Lions have historically engaged in territorial battles with one another, often in groups, where strategy and the ability to coordinate attacks have proven essential. Their fighting style in the wild is not just about individual ferocity but also about harnessing the power of a united front. In a scenario where lions are armored, their tendency to fight in prides could translate into a highly coordinated battle tactic, where one lion covers the flanks while another charges head-on at the vulnerable parts of the opponent's armor. The collective intelligence and social dynamics of lion prides, which have been fine-tuned over generations, could provide them with an edge when facing another well-armored adversary. Their roars, body language, and instinctive signals might still come through, allowing them to adapt to the new challenges posed by wearing armor and engaging in close-quarters combat. Tigers, in contrast, have traditionally relied on solitary combat tactics. Their strategy centers on stealth, quick bursts of speed, and powerful, decisive strikes that end a confrontation before it can escalate. In an armored duel, the tiger would be forced to modify its tactics considerably, without the cover of stealth or the ability to rely on surprise attacks in the same way. The tiger would need to engage in more straightforward, sustained combat. This change could reduce the advantages that have historically made tigers such fearsome solitary hunters. In addition, the tiger's solitary nature might limit its ability to exploit any potential weaknesses in the armor of a coordinated opponent. If a tiger were to face a lion pride in armor, its lack of cooperative strategy would likely prove detrimental, as it would have to contend with not just one, but multiple adversaries whose teamwork could overwhelm its individual prowess. The imagined battlefield for these armored big cats could be as varied as the medieval arenas of old, from open fields littered with obstacles to dense, ruined fortresses where every shadow and crevice offers a strategic advantage. In an open field, raw physical strength and endurance might dictate the outcome, as both animals would need to rely on their muscular power and stamina to engage in prolonged combat. Here, the lion's natural proclivity for group tactics could allow it to wear down a tiger over time, particularly if the tiger's movements are hindered by its heavy armor. In contrast, in a more complex environment like a ruined castle or forested battleground, agility and stealth could play a more significant role. The tiger's ability to navigate narrow corridors or to vanish into the undergrowth might allow it to avoid direct confrontation, picking off isolated members of the opposition or targeting weak points in the enemy's formation. Historical reenactments and medieval combat scenarios often emphasize the importance of training, discipline, and adaptability, qualities that these big cats, if endowed with human-like intelligence or even simply through evolution, might develop over time. A lion or tiger that has learned to work with its armor, to understand its limitations, and to exploit the vulnerabilities of an opponent would become a formidable combatant. In this thought experiment, we see a clash not only of natural instincts and raw power but also of adaptability and strategy. Both animals would be forced to rethink their ancient combat techniques in the face of a modern technological twist, blending the ancient art of ferocious combat with the innovations of medieval metallurgy. One must also consider the psychological impact of wearing armor on these wild creatures. Armor, by its very nature, restricts movement, alters the center of gravity, and changes the way an animal perceives its own physical capabilities. For a lion, whose confidence often stems from the pride and the collective support of its kin, the encumbrance of armor might be mitigated by the reassurance of fighting as part of a coordinated group. The psychological boost of being in a pack, even in heavy gear, could compensate for any physical disadvantages. For the tiger, however, which prides itself on solitary excellence and self-reliance, the imposition of armor might represent a significant challenge. The tiger's internal struggle to adapt to a new way of fighting, where its natural grace is hindered by the weight of metal, could affect its overall performance. Its instincts would still drive it to pounce and strike with all its might, but the loss of agility and the potential for miscalculation could tilt the balance in favor of a more collectively minded adversary. Moreover, the durability of the armor itself would play a pivotal role in determining the outcome of these clashes. Medieval armor was designed to protect knights from swords and arrows, not from the razor-sharp claws and powerful jaws of a wild beast. If the armor were constructed with enough flexibility and reinforced at the vulnerable joints and weak points, it might offer substantial protection against the initial barrage of blows from a tiger or lion. However, even the strongest armor has its limits. A well-placed strike aimed at an unarmored gap, perhaps near the joints or along the belly, could prove fatal regardless of the quality of the metal. The big cats, with their evolved ability to detect weakness and exploit it with precision, might find that no suit of armor is entirely foolproof against nature's fury. As the battle rages on in this imagined medieval arena, one can envision the epic spectacle of clashing titans, each stroke of a paw, each powerful bite, and each strategic maneuver drawing on the deep well of evolutionary prowess that defines these magnificent creatures. The roar of a lion, amplified by the heavy clanging of metal, would echo across the battlefield, as would the stealthy, determined growls of a tiger. Their movements, though encumbered by armor, would still be imbued with the primal energy of the wild, a testament to the indomitable spirit that even the heaviest chainmail cannot suppress. In the end, the question of whether a lion or a tiger would prevail when clad in medieval armor is as much about the nature of adaptation as it is about raw physical strength. While the lion's social nature and cooperative combat techniques might give it an advantage in prolonged, coordinated battles, the tiger's solitary ferocity and explosive power could allow it to deliver decisive, lethal blows, if only it could overcome the physical constraints imposed by its armor. The outcome would likely depend on a multitude of variables: the quality and design of the armor, the terrain of the battlefield, and the individual characteristics of the animals involved. Each strike, each maneuver, would be a calculated risk in a contest where both instinct and innovation collide. This epic clash, where ancient predators are reimagined as armored warriors of a bygone era, is a celebration of both nature's raw power and humanity's enduring fascination with the art of combat. It challenges us to consider how evolution and technology intersect, and it invites us to marvel at the extraordinary abilities of lions and tigers, creatures that have long captivated our imagination with their strength, beauty, and resilience. The battle of the armored big cats is not just a contest of muscle and metal. It is a symbolic confrontation between the untamed forces of nature and the relentless drive to adapt and overcome any obstacle. It reminds us that even in the face of seemingly insurmountable challenges, life finds a way to persist, evolve, and triumph. Ultimately, whether the armored lion's coordinated might can outmatch the tiger's singular, explosive power is a question that transcends the physical and ventures into the realm of strategy, adaptation, and sheer determination. The armored lion, supported by the unity of its pride and a disciplined approach to warfare, might dominate in battles of endurance and collective strength. Conversely, the solitary armored tiger, if it can maintain its speed and precision, might prove capable of exploiting any momentary lapse in the lion's formation, delivering a decisive, crushing blow. The clash between these two forces would not be settled by brute strength alone, but by a complex interplay of tactical acumen, evolutionary heritage, and the ability to adapt under pressure, a contest that would redefine the very nature of predatory warfare in an enchanted medieval world. In this epic, speculative battle, every moment is charged with the tension of ancient instincts meeting modern innovation, where the age-old legacy of the wild collides with the unyielding solidity of forged iron. Whether one emerges victorious over the other is a question that remains suspended in the realm of fantasy, a testament to our endless fascination with the power and majesty of nature's fiercest creatures. Even when reimagined as armored warriors on a grand, medieval stage,